Welcome to the Hotel News Now podcast. I'm news editor Sean McCracken. Today we'll be trying out something new. Since Hotel News Now's inception, we've been offering our readers a daily snapshot of top headlines compiled as 5 things to know. So for the first time ever, we're trying the same thing in podcast format, collecting 5 of our best pieces of content from the month of October for your enjoyment and education. To kick things off, I'm joined by senior reporter Brian Roden, who recently checked in with Aimbridge Hospitality CEO Craig Smith about how the first 6 months on the job have gone, how the largest third-party hotel operating platform has refocused and reorganized, and the role burgers and fries are playing in those efforts. Brian, what should our listeners know about what's going on with Aimbridge?
Thanks, Sean. Had a chance to have a chat with Craig Smith not too long ago, and I mean the gist of it is he has been really trying to refocus and restructure the leadership structure that is at Aimbridge. We saw some people leave. We've seen what he calls the flattening of the organization, removing some layers between him and the property level, and just making generally more contact there. Because when he came in, one of the biggest focuses he had was on having the right GMs at the right property, and making sure that the corporate structure is there supporting the properties themselves, and making sure that the teams there had everything they need. And it's just more of actually getting that into play and actually in action.
So talk a little bit about how he's kind of bridging that gap between the highest levels of the organization and the more rank and file. It seems like he's taken some novel efforts into trying connecting with people.
I assume you're talking about Five Guys.
I am.
So you said when you go to the corporate headquarters, a lot of times, just generally, it can feel a lot less welcoming and friendly than if you were to actually go into a hotel itself, where the staff is very much trained and just more welcoming mindset. So his idea was, if I don't say if you say hi to me while I'm walking past you, and I don't say hi back to you, or at least acknowledge you in some way, I'll buy you Five Guys. And so far, a lot of people have tried it, and he said it didn't work. Then he changed that to having their values card, the company's values, and you're supposed, everyone's supposed to have that on them. And he said, he's going to have it on himself as well. And if someone catches him without it, he'll buy them Five Guys. And someone got him on at some big conference, I think over in the UK, and it's just he had it back in his briefcase back in his room, and someone got him on stage for a meeting that was televised, and they ran out and got that guy a burger and fries. And just the idea of it is just trying to push that engagement, and just I think part of it also is just kind of breaking that barrier socially between executives and everybody else.
Yeah, 6 months is not terribly long for any corporate leadership. I'm wondering, are there signs so far that they've shared that their efforts are paying off, or at least moving in the right direction?
I've heard a couple of times from him, as well as when I met with a couple of the Aimbridge executives at the lodging conference, Eric Jacobs and Ali Al-Basuni, that turnover, especially with GMs, is down, and I think it's even down compared to the industry average. And with their focus on having GMs in place, and the GM being the key person, it sounds like they are seeing, actual results from their efforts.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks, Brian. On the monthly Tell Me More podcast, H&N's Steph Ricca, CoStar's Jan Freitag, and STR's Isaac Colazzo were joined by Expedia's Brandon Earhart to talk about travel trends heading into 2025. Here's the group talking about how Gen Z has an increasing interest in all-inclusive resorts.
I love how you casually said, when I was in Asia last week.
I know.
Well,
a destination of Singapore, which I had never been to. But of course, everybody there is saying, oh, well, if you like this, then you should try this, this, the next 20 times that you get on this 18-hour flight to Asia. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if only.
You didn't tell me you were going to Singapore. I would have told you to go to Burger Works. It's not a fancy restaurant. It's my favorite burger joint in Singapore.
You know, a lot of people went there. I saw a lot of...
Oh, I love Burger Works. It's just a good beer, good burgers.
If you like burger, but if it's busy, then maybe I have to go somewhere else. See? Detour destinations around every corner. All right, Brandon, the next one on the list is one that I think might be a little controversial. Maybe people might not agree. I floated this out in my newsroom. I don't know. All-inclusive era. So the description of this in the Expedia report is, today's all-inclusive resorts are getting a major glow up, and Gen Z is here for it. So you're saying young people want to go to all-inclusive resorts?
I'm saying that they want to trade their avocado toast for all-inclusive resorts, and
convince us.
I will. Okay, here's the number: 60% year-over-year increase in searches for all-inclusive resorts on Hotels.com can be attributed to this convenience, right? And if you think about the world we've been living in now, for the dorms listening, get ready to write this down and hand to your marketing department. So, 41% of Gen Zers choose all-inclusives for minimal stress, 39% for ease of booking, 38% for the luxury experience they offer. So you think about that value messaging to travelers, it's really about simplification. It's about making it easy, and it's about making the vacation a vacation. Like, I don't know about you all, but when I go on vacation, I want to throw my iPhone into the ocean. I don't want to talk to anyone from work. I just want to spend time with my family. We got 2 kids and my wife, and we love to go travel to beaches. And when we go stay in an all-inclusive, like, you want it to be easy in all aspects of the stay. So that is, the shopping phase, the booking phase, and then of course on property. And I think that we've seen really all-inclusive resorts really improve their offering in terms of food quality, in terms of the wellness activities that you can participate in. And it's not your father's or your mother's era all-inclusive. Things have really changed. And they've also changed their social media followings, right? And they've tried to become more niche, more cool. And I think we're seeing that pay off. And there's some interest with the younger travelers amongst us. And I think it's a really incredible trend to understand, but also to start to follow. Is this going to hold true, especially as we've seen ADRs in the industry go up? How are travelers thinking about the all-inclusive experience versus kind of the bespoke standalone experience? And I think that that's a decision that travelers are making every time that they shop. And, hoteliers and people in the industry need to be aware that the decision set is broadening for that younger traveler. It's not just necessarily vacation rentals, right? It's kind of the opposite of that, where they're going to something that's like, okay, make my life easier, make the food for me, come wait on me hand and foot.
And I think that's the key. I think that's even happening. I think it's happening in all-inclusives and also with luxury travel agents or advisors, right? People don't want the stress of having to plan it themselves. They don't want to they just want it simplified. Everyone can cut their own grass, but many of us choose not to. That's a decision, right? And the same thing with we can plan a vacation by ourselves and look everything up in the internet, but it's much easier if either I go to a place where it's all planned for me, or an advisor plans it all, and I'll just show up and enjoy it and take my pictures. And I think it's simplification. I think it's the experience and simplification.
I totally agree. I think that's why we see an uptick in cruise travel, right? Because cruise is, I think, the ultimate all-inclusive,
right?
Right.
Sure.
And the other piece, you're talking about the Gen Z piece here. When I read this, thought about it the other way. I thought about multi-generational travel, and the grandparent paying for everybody, but wanting to make sure that it's within the budget. Well, you get a number up front. You know how much it's going to be, and then let the grandkids run wild.
Right.
Exactly. And I think one more thing to add here is just this diversity of trip, right? I think people are taking more than one trip a year. So maybe you have your all-inclusive trip. Maybe you have that vacation rental that's multi-generational. There's so many different interests right now and so many different ways to satisfy those interests that I think we'll see more expansion into different types of lodging, and I think all-inclusives is the one that we're identifying for 25. And the forecast is the forecast, and we'll see what happens in reality.
Checking in with one of my colleagues over at CoStar News, we have Dallas-based reporter Candace Carlisle, who's here to talk about a prominent investor in that market who has made a big move in hotel development. Candace, what should our listeners know about Craig Hall and the Hall Group?
Well, Craig Hall has quite the storied career. He got into real estate, not really wanting to be into real estate, but he wanted to show landlords you could offer affordable housing to college students and still make a profit. So he bought his first property for about $4,000 from all the odd and end jobs that he, worked as a teenager. And, he began this career and had this passion for a business that sort of came out of nowhere. And he's turned that passion into not only real estate development, but, real estate investment. He's also invested a lot in the Napa Valley winery business, if you've ever been out to California. And so, he's had quite the storied career, but it really focuses on real estate development and fulfilling needs that he perceives a community needing.
Mm-hmm. So the news hook here for you this week was 2 new properties, hotel properties they developed, right?
Right. He's been busy opening up 2 new properties, one in his hometown of Dallas-Fort Worth. I say hometown broadly because it's actually in Frisco, Texas, a fast-growing suburb of Dallas. But then he also opened a luxury hotel that has been in the making for more than a dozen years in Palm Springs, California. So quite the exciting month for him.
Mm-hmm. And I'll note to our listeners, if the names sound familiar here, Hall Group has been active in the hotel industry, although he's new to hotel development just in the last few years. But if the name sounds familiar, it's probably because of their lending platform, Hall Structured Finance, which has been a hotel construction lender for about 30 years, I believe. Wonder if that experience kind of helped ease the transition to developing themselves.
Right. He's been privy to all the financials that sort of back all these projects. And so he kind of knows what pencils and what doesn't pencil. And that's why he's focused on making these luxury experiential offerings and bringing them to these 2 very different communities.
So, I mean, he's obviously pretty, like I mentioned off the top, prominent in the market. Like, how would you describe his place in the landscape of Dallas business?
Good question. I hate to, characterize or rank developers, but he is certainly one of the most influential real estate developers in Dallas, hands down. He has built not only in the Dallas Arts District, where he sort of took this leap into hotel development, but, he has built these little mixed use developments outside of Dallas, including his Hall Park project, where he began building in Frisco back when there was just cow pastures and dirt roads. Rumor has it he had these great big white grand opening tents that they sort of have when they're digging dirt and trying to get a project underway. And it was literally in the middle of nowhere. And he's taken that middle of nowhere, and it was really in the path of development right off the Dallas North Tollway. Since then, some other big names have joined him. Right next door to Craig Hall's project is Jerry Jones' Star in Frisco, where, that's where the Dallas Cowboys have their worldwide headquarters, and no big deal, but the Dallas Cowboys have quite the valuation and have taken the world by storm. But we'll save that.
We want to talk about prominence in Dallas. Yes, it starts with the Cowboys.
Right. So before Jerry Jones, began building the Star in Frisco and began investing millions of dollars, buying thousands of acres in this part of North Texas, there's Craig Hall, out there digging among cow pastures. So
yeah, that's an interesting connection. All right. Well, thanks so much, Candace. On this month's episode of The Upgrade, Hotel News Now's monthly podcast about Europe, Middle East, and Africa, H&N's Terrence Baker spoke with Cheval Collection's Daniel Johansson about how the service department sector has increasing credibility in the hospitality industry.
And let's talk about blurring. I mean, we've seen blurring over the last 7 or 8 years, last 5 years, between hotels and service departments, perhaps. We're also certainly seeing it in other types of accommodation. We might see it in further ones. Maybe there'll be a blur between service departments and glamping, who knows. But how do you see that blurring, and how do investors look at it, how has that real estate class changed? Is it soon to eclipse traditional hotels in performance and guest preference? Is the industry
that of course.
Of course, indeed, because you're working so diligently. But how do you see that all panning out?
No, I mean, joking aside, it's about it being the future. I think there's room for all. But what I think would hugely benefit service departments if there were more good product out there. So that gives us the opportunity, because there isn't so much good product out there, but it's also the challenge because it's left has a reputation sometimes of being slightly lower end product or purely for a certain corporate market, and that's not the case at all. It also then depends on how you categorize and define service departments, which is a bit complex because to some it's only long stay, extended stay, but for us it's the flexibility of being able to cater for both. And then where do you place apart hotels? So I would say our My Locanda brand is an apart hotel. You have smaller units, mainly studios, more transient business, F&B in the lobby as well. And then I would also place Eden's Lock and a few other brands in that segment. Another thing to consider is then where to factor in basically where you are, what jurisdiction you're in. As an example, in the Middle East, our product is hotel apartments. And in the UAE, there are then two categories, standard and deluxe. And we've also entered Saudi Arabia. And there, if you talk about service departments, the units are typically rented out on a long let basis. So there we're categorized as apartment hotel. So blurring, etc. Yeah, it's all happening, even with the putting it in the right category. I feel generally that there's a blur between hotels and our kind of service departments, because with our apartments you have all of those in one building, like in a hotel, and so unless you're staying on a long stay, you have your room cleaned daily. And then obviously you have reception concierge, there's maintenance, management in the building. So you're in a hotel, but your accommodation also has typically, if you have a one bed, living room, kitchen, and so on.
Now I'm joined by my colleague in France, Luc-Etienne Rollard-Lafond, who works with CoStar's Paris-based news organization, Business Emo. Earlier this month, a partnership of Mohari Hospitality, Omnom Investment Group, and musician Pharrell Williams announced plans to buy a historic hotel in Paris. Luke, what should our listeners know about this deal?
Yes, so Pharrell Williams, obviously the big name in this transaction. He is a minority shareholder on the deal. As you said, he joined forces with a joint venture comprised of Mohari Hospitality and Omnan Investment Group. They acquired the St. James and Albany Hotel, which is located at 202 Rue de Rivoli in the first arrondissement of Paris. For those who don't know this place, it's just outside of the Tuileries Gardens, which are the gardens of the Louvre Palace. So very, very prime location. It is a 5-star hotel as well. So it made a lot of noise on the market, even more so that the transaction, according to Business Imo sources, was done as a purchase price between 180 and 200 million euros. So that's a big ticket for the Paris hotel market. Also, something interesting to note was that, according to our sources, that asset, which was sold by a private family, was on the market for a long time, close to a year, according to our sources. It is as I said, a very prime establishment, but obviously it was not easy to close the deal.
Yeah, certainly. But I'm sure that the sellers are feeling happy. So Luke, what's the general feeling as for Paris as a hotel investment market right now?
Well, actually, the feeling is pretty positive on the on the hospitality investment market, and it's a very big contrast compared to other asset classes such as offices or residential, which have seen investment volume plummet over the last year, over the last couple of years, actually. In France, on the hotel market in H1, there was 1.5 billion euros invested, and that's a plus 37% jump compared to H1 2023, which was still a pretty good year for the Paris market. So when you compare that to investment volumes on other sectors that have fallen 20, 30, 40%, even 50% in some cases, that's significant. RevPAR in Paris was in France in general, was 75.7 euros in H1, which is a little bit down, minus 2.3% compared to H1 2023, but still a very good number if you keep in mind that 2023 was a very historic year for the hospitality sector in France, with a lot of revenge travel coming from the US, coming from a lot of countries around the world. And as you know, Paris is the most visited city in the world, the number one touristic location in the world. Île-de-France, obviously, the Paris market was a big part of that popularity for investors. 71% of investment was done in the Paris region. So that makes 1.1 billion euros invested in H1 alone. To give you an idea, in 2023, for the whole year, it was 2.1 billion euros invested in France on the sector. So that tells us that the sector is on par to do a very good year in 2024.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Hotel News Now podcast, which was edited by me, Sean McCracken. If you're interested in learning about any of the stories or podcasts featured today, they're linked in the episode description and are all available on hotelnewsnow.com.
Hi, I'm Isaac Colazo, Vice President of Analytics at STR.
Hi, and I'm Jan Freitag, National Director for Hospitality Analytics for the CoStar Group. Tune in to our new show, Tell Me More, a hospitality data podcast.
It's a podcast on the global hotel industry, its current trends, what we're thinking about, and where the industry's going.
And we like to have fun with the data too. Find us on hotelnewsnow.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe today.